Welcome back. Today we're going over properties of operations. So starting out, each expression, they follow rules, and those rules are called properties. Anytime that we use a property, it will result in an equivalent expression. So basically we're trying to rewrite expressions to be the exact same thing, and we do that with properties. The very first thing, here we have the additive and multiplicative identity, which basically means that we take any number plus 0 and that'll equal that same number. Or any number times 1 will equal that same number. So to show an example of that, we go ahead and say if p was equal to 12, then I would have here 12 plus 0 equals 12, and that would show that 12 does equal 12. So we can see that that is true. When I put in a random number, it does work. Then I could do the same thing for the next one. So in this identity here, we're just basically stating that whatever number we start with should be the exact same number we end with if it's an identity problem. Okay, the next one, we have the commutative property of addition and multiplication. So with addition, if I were to say p equals 12 and r equals 5, I then just substitute that in for my problem. P plus r equals r plus p. And in this case, if I do 12 plus 5, I get 17, and if I do 5 plus 12, I get 17. That shows that it doesn't matter if we rearrange or reverse the order, they'll be the exact same. Same thing with multiplication. I go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to have p equal 12 and r equal 5, and I'd have 12 times 5 is the same as 5 times 12. And we would get 60 equals 60. So that shows the commutative property of addition and multiplication, that it does help us see that when we change the order, 12 times 5, 5 times 12, it's just reversed, that we still get the exact same answer. Next type, we have the associative property of multiplication and the associative property of addition. So for addition, I go ahead and just plug in if p equals 12, r equals 5, and s equals 3. I'm going to go ahead and write out the problem so you can see what I'm doing. I go ahead and take every variable that's a p, and I'm going to turn it into a 12, every r a 5, and every s a 3. So I start out, p turns into 12, r turns into 5, s turns into 3. p turns into 12, r turns into 5, s turns into 3. And then I just follow order of operations, which states that I have to do 12 plus 5, and then I'm going to go ahead and get 17 plus 3. And then over there I have to do 5 plus 3 and get 8, and that would be 12 plus 8. When I add those two together, I'm going to get 20 equals 20. Okay, with multiplication, same type of thing. I'm going to write out the problem, but instead of writing the variable p, I'm going to go ahead and write 12. Instead of writing the variable r, I'm going to write 5, and instead of writing the variable s, I'm going to write 3. So now I have a 12 times 5 times 3, and then a 12 times 5 times 3. So order of operations states 12 times 5 is 60. Over here, 5 times 3 is 15. I then do 60 times 3 to get 180, and 12 times 15 to get 180. Alright, the zero product property, that just means that anytime you take any number and multiply it by 0, the result is 0. So if I were to say p equals 12, p times 0 equals 0. If I change that to 12, 12 times 0 is 0. So that means that the zero product property, it just turns the problem to 0. Okay, so with these examples, we have several pieces that we can go through. The very first one is we're going to show how these properties and operations apply with these expressions. So if I'm going to use the commutative property of addition, I'm going to go ahead and take this one, and to use the commutative property, I'm going to commute. That means I'm going to go in the opposite order. So I go ahead and do that, and I say that this is going to be q plus 18 when I use the property. Notice how it was 18 plus q, now it's q plus 18. If I were to use the zero product property for c times 0, that means that I would have an answer of 0, because any number times 0 is 0. The next one asks me to use the multiplicative identity property, which states that if I take any number times 1, it's going to equal that number. The commutative property of multiplication, that means that I can take this, and instead of saying a times b, I can say b times a. The additive identity property is 19 plus 0. That would be the same thing as just saying 19. Zero product property. I would have 0 times G, which means 0 times any number is still 0. The commutative property of addition. I would go ahead and take 7 plus 9 and transform that to 9 plus 7. And the multiplicative identity property, that would be 1 times 45, which just equals 45. Alright, so for our next three, it would be the associative property of addition. I go ahead and take that and say 5 plus 6 plus 8. I just move the parentheses over to the second two numbers. The additive identity property, h plus 0, well, that's just going to be h. The commutative property of multiplication, that is going to be 13 times 6. That would turn into 6 times 13. Okay, down below we're going to go ahead and match each expression to column 1 and column 2 that's equivalent. So if I were to look at column 1, I'm going to match it to one of these over here that means the exact same thing. So starting out, this one looks like it has parentheses, and if I were to go over here, the order doesn't change, A, B, and C, but the parentheses moved. That means I'm going to use that commutative property, or the associative property, excuse me, and I move that over. That would be equivalent. A times B times C, that would be the exact same thing as B times A times C. A would be the same thing as A times 1, and C plus B plus A would be the same thing as B plus C plus A. The order has changed, but it'll result in the same answer. Okay, same thing for the second set. G plus 0 is going to be G. E times F times G in parentheses is going to result in E times F in parentheses times G. And then we'll have E plus G, or E plus F plus G is the same thing as G plus F plus E. And then G times 0, that's going to result in 0. Alright, hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Have a great day.